Hey, good Tuesday morning to you. Listening to the London Symphonic or the London Symphony Orchestra, oh little town of Bethlehem. Hey, it's December the 20th, 2023. 23, how about that? I'm just practicing, okay? 2022, December the 20th, 2022. 23 is coming quickly, and it'll be right around the corner, not just figuratively, but physically it's coming around the corner. This is the seventh day of Christmas, as the old song says, concerning the 12 days of Christmas. And today you receive 7 swans swimming. How about that for a present? 7 swans a swimming. You understand that the first portion of that song, the 12 days of Christmas, the first portion, all of those consist of fowls. You have swans, you have partridges, you have parakeets, and whatever else, and even the 5 golden rings. Those they are gold ring pheasants, and then it transitions to the employees of a farm. I think it's kind of interesting. That's just food for thought. All right, so when you sing that, and I know there's a biblical view of that as well. But I'm not sure where the derivation of that is, and I don't know if it's from over in London or where. But hey, food for thought. I've got a question for you today. We're looking at a lot of the different narratives of the the Christmas view, and just the different scenarios that we are looking at, different circumstances, characters, and so I've got a question for you today. And the question is, why was Jesus born in Bethlehem? Why was he born in Bethlehem? With all the other towns, why Bethlehem? Well, we would say, well, it's to fulfill the prophecy. Absolutely, we must keep that in mind. It is to fulfill the prophecy, but why Bethlehem? Why was it prophesied in Bethlehem? So you can't just say, well, it's just to fulfill the prophecy. It is, but why did God choose Bethlehem? So Micah 5:2 says, but thou Bethlehem Ephratah. Now he's talking about those two words, Bethlehem meaning house of bread, where we understand that meaning spiritually sustaining life or life-sustaining bread. This is where Christ come from. And then Ephratah, meaning fruitful. And so he says, but thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth have been from of old, from everlasting. So Micah declares this through the inspiration of God, that Christ would be born in Bethlehem. This prophecy has been given roughly about 700 years prior to the birth of Christ. Micah is a book after Jonah. You might want to read that. Some would consider Micah as the sister to Isaiah. It would be like Isaiah in shorthand. It's a shorter version, yet very powerful in the prophecy. So roughly 700 years prior to the birth of Christ, Micah declares the prophecy that Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. So the question arises, why, as Micah promotes the prophecy of Christ's birth, why is it not that Christ was born in Jerusalem, since he was to be the King of the Jews? Good question, is it not? Why was it not in Jerusalem? I mean, the wise men, we talked about the other day, the wise men went to where? Jerusalem, because he was to be the King of the Jews. And yet, while they were there in Jerusalem, they seen the star that was not in Jerusalem, but in Bethlehem. And so they certainly thought that he was to be born in Jerusalem. So what is so special about Bethlehem? Why that town? Why not somewhere else? And especially Jerusalem. Well, let me give you a couple thoughts that will help us kind of look at this. Bethlehem, keep in mind, Bethlehem was not an impressive town. It was not a very significant town at all. It was located 5 to 6 miles south down a rocky hillside nestled in a rocky hillside, is the town of Bethlehem. It was nothing major. It was a lowly town. It was a poor town, and nothing there that would draw anyone, as far as significance. It was just a town where people lived. So there was no draw to it. It was lowly. It was a poor town. So this was Bethlehem. It wasn't impressive, but it was where God was to be born. Bethlehem is mentioned one of the first times in 1 Samuel chapter number 16, and this is where God's providence begins to take place in God's hand in moving this. So in 1 Samuel chapter number 16, the prophet Samuel comes to a farmhouse, to a sheep herder's farm that has several boys, and to anoint one as king of Israel. So King Saul has been dismissed from his throne, and now God, keep in mind that the people chose Saul. God did not choose Saul. God allowed this to happen, told them what was going to take place, but God chose David. So in this household, though Samuel looked at every one of those boys and said to Jesse, the dad, "Is there anyone else?" And he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, yes, there is. He's out in the sheep herd. He's out with the sheep, watching them, taking care of them, and being a shepherd to them. But he is a ruddy fella. There's nothing significant about him. He's fair-skinned, probably we would say ruddy, red-headed fella. There is nothing that would draw the attention to David. Yet, by God's providential guiding and leading, Samuel anoints David as the next king of Israel by where they were living in Bethlehem. Again, as we talked about the shepherds, this is very possibly the same field that David was watching his sheep just outside of Bethlehem. So this birthplace, it was a birthplace of David, the king of Israel. It was the birthplace where God anointed David to be the next king of Israel, the one whose heart was after God's. That means strive to become, strive to follow after. And say, well, preacher, David fell in his life. Well, let me ask you this. You don't need to answer it. Have you fallen as a child of God? And does God forgive? Absolutely. Absolutely. He puts it behind us as far as east is from the west, and he is to remember them no more. And David, in his defense, he came to God and confessed in a very, very solemn way, and God forgave him and restored in him the joy. So David was anointed king whose heart was after God. It makes sense that Christ was to assume the throne of David. That the birthplace, if God was going to assume the throne of David, that the birthplace would also be the birthplace of David the king, and that was in Bethlehem. And Isaiah reminds us this in Isaiah chapter number 9 and verse 7, that the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom. So even Isaiah said that Christ would be the king in the line of David and would take the throne of David. So David became king in Bethlehem, and his birthplace was in Bethlehem. So it therefore makes sense that Jesus Christ himself, the King of the Jews, the king who was to take the throne, was also to be from Bethlehem. Now, here's the clincher. Mary and Joseph were not from Bethlehem. They were from Nazareth. They were living in Nazareth. But you know what happened 9 months previous? Gabriel came and told Mary that she was going to be with child. She was going to be conceived by the Holy Ghost. This was 9 months prior to the birth of Christ. And it was during that time that Caesar Augustus decreed that there would be a tax, that everyone would go back to their hometown, to the place of their lineage, and pay taxes. And you know when that occurred? You know when the time was when they had to go pay taxes? It was during the ninth month of Mary's pregnancy. And as they made their way, I'm sure that the riding of the donkey or on the camel or walking, however they got there, did not help to slow down the birth. It sped it up. But here that they went to Bethlehem because that's where Joseph was from. He was from the lineage of David. And so he went to Bethlehem to pay taxes. And during that time, it was by God's providence and by God's ordering, by God's providential plan, that Micah's prophecy is being fulfilled. Out of Bethlehem, Ephratah. God's hand was in this. God's hand was used even by a pagan ruler, Caesar Augustus, to bring a census that they had to pay taxes. God even used an unsaved pagan to do his will. So, why was Christ born in Bethlehem? Because of the providential will of God, in that David was born in Bethlehem. David was a king that was anointed in Bethlehem, and therefore God brought Jesus to Bethlehem to be born. It was in 1865 when a man by the name of Philip Brooks was moved and driven to spend Christmas in Israel. And he went to Bethlehem during that time. It was during those evenings that a powerful reality of the birth of Christ struck him. In the quietness of those evenings, in the quietness of that night, he began to pen down these words. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. For Christ is born of Mary, and gathered all above while mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. O morning stars together proclaim thy holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. There's something about Bethlehem. That's where Jesus was born. If we would simply stop and take the incredible truths that permeates every part of the Christmas narrative, we would fully understand. We would fully understand the wonderful sovereignty, the endless and boundless love, the sweetness and tenderness of God. Christ's birth is not just a story. It's not just a narrative recited at Christmas time or a play that's given by every elementary school and church during this time. It's God's love displayed. It's God's love given. Jesus Christ was born as a lowly babe. He was born to lowly parents. He was born in a lowly stable, and he was born in a lowly town, Bethlehem. Yet born as a king. Wow. I hope this is a wonderful thought to you today. And as we sing that little town of Bethlehem, may we understand that it is by the providence and sovereignty of God that he was birthed in Bethlehem. Hey, this is Greg Steinke, the pastor at Calvary Baptist Church. Come by and see us sometime. And we have our services this Sunday, Christmas Sunday, at 10:30 only. We will not have Sunday school or evening service. And weather permitting, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but hey, we're going to go for it at 10:30. If you'd like to be here, that'd be great. Watch us online. You can go to our YouTube page and Facebook, and certainly join us there and see our services online. Be notified notified, subscribe, and it'll be a wonderful blessing to you. And hey, watch, like, share these videos, share these things to others, that they may also have an understanding, a greater understanding of the Christmas narrative. All right. Thanks for joining me. Join me each weekday, Monday through Friday, here for our devotions from Calvary. All right. Hey, I hope to see you here at the church sometime, or see you online. Lord bless you.